Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperatures. It's remaining very unsettled over the next few days in terms of a lot of showers and bouts of precipitation pushing in from the west as the jet stream moves slightly further southwards, meaning lower pressure is centred more over the top of us, meaning we're going to have a lot of showers and general areas of precipitation. It does mean perhaps, as we have alluded to over the last few videos, into next week, perhaps the middle of next week, we could actually be going very warm at the 5 to 7 day time frame, perhaps even Indian summer type patterns where temperatures could even get as high as 20 to 25 degrees for some, depending on different runs and ensemble members. Some are more towards the mid to high teens, others low 20s perhaps, but very, very warm for the second half of October. And we'll see that's on the GFS, GEM, Eastern DF and the ensembles. As I said, the middle of the month looks very warm, especially next week, but then it could still turn a lot colder towards the end of the month, which we have alluded to as well. But again, there's a lot of spread within the ensemble members and the extended range of the models, so we'll just have to see what they're showing today. So remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, if you just look on the live radar at the moment, you see a lot of areas of precipitation are pushing in from the west. Some areas are completely dry. Other areas like north of England, into the Midlands, southern Wales, and southeast England have areas of precipitation moving in. Again, some of these will be heavy, but they should move through quite quickly with a westerly flow. And we're just going to see a lot of these areas of precipitation pushing in from the west because of the lower pressure centred over the top of us. I'm recording this around 5 p.m, and if we do have a look at those temperatures at the surface, you can see they aren't too bad to the east, but cooler air will start to spread in before that warm push of air eventually arrives next week. Because you can see it is still very warm across parts of Iberia down towards Portugal and Spain, and this sort of air mass is going to be moving towards the UK. It's a sort of air mass in the summer that would give 30 degrees, but being in October now with sun strength diminishing quite significantly, we're most likely just going to be seeing temperatures perhaps peaking in around that 20 to 25 degree range. Now, if you have a look at the UKV, what that is showing over the next 5 days in terms of precipitation, and you can see this afternoon that precipitation moving in and continued bouts of precipitation pushing in overnight tonight quite widely, and again just repeated areas of precipitation spiralling in on the lower pressure tomorrow. So you may actually stay dry tomorrow, but you may also see some very heavy showers around as well. So it's going to be real hit and miss. Beyond that, through Saturday evening into Sunday, you still see more showers for another area of persistent precipitation move through on Sunday evening into early hours of Monday. Eventually that does clear through Monday, and Monday looks generally quite a dry day for the south, but still a little bit more unsettled in the north. Through Monday evening into Tuesday, you can see some heavier rain pushing it up, potentially from the south, and that's because the southerly airflow is starting to arrive. Maybe some heavy thundery showers towards the midweek, but it does look likely that Wednesday and Thursday could be really quite warm, with that potentially 15-degree isotherm moving in, which would give temperatures maybe as high as 25 degrees in an isolated few areas. But the UKV only goes out to 5 days, and within the next day or two we'll be able to have a look at what that's showing for the peak temperatures next Wednesday afternoon and Thursday. So if we do go over to the 2 metre, well actually 750 HPA temperatures, you can actually see 3 a.m. on Wednesday, you can see around 12 or 13 degrees at 850 HPA is spreading in. It's likely to peak around the 15 degree range, and again could see some heavy thundery showers mixed with that as there is lower pressure trying to nudge in, but also with that warm air mass, it's going to mean it's very warm in the day as well. If you look at the 2 metre temperatures, you can see this afternoon temperatures peaked around 16 or 17 degrees, but isolated areas where we avoided the cloud and the precipitation. Overnight, those temperatures will drop away quite rapidly in the north, widely to freezing across Scotland, but in the south, much milder. It's because we've got a collision of air masses there, and that is actually fueling the showers and the rain. As we head to Saturday afternoon, you see the temperatures rising once again, maybe 16 or 17 in the east and the south, but much cooler further northwards as we've got a bit of a weather front pushing in with that precipitation, introducing a slightly colder air mass. And into Sunday, early hours, you can see widely mid to high single digits, so quite a cold night, but nothing exceptional, and by Sunday afternoon, widely around that sort of 12 to 15 degree range. So again, not too exceptional, but not crazy cold or crazy mild either. If we do have a look at the Monday temperatures, you can see in the afternoon, creeping up 16 to 18 degrees quite widely in the south and the east, a lot colder further northwards, around the low teens, but that's because we're still in the colder air mass. But as we head towards Tuesday, you can see the south remains very mild overnight, cool in the north, and by Tuesday afternoon, again, a wider area of 16 to 18 degrees, maybe peaking at 19 or 20 along the far south coast. But of course, the upper air temperatures, they have not peaked, and they will peak on Wednesday and Thursday, and most likely by Wednesday afternoon will rise very high. We're going to have a very big diurnal range as well. You can see maybe 7 or 8 degrees there across the Midlands and northern England, but it could rise to 10 to 15 degrees higher than that later in the day. So yeah, it could be quite chilly overnight, but we could see some very, very warm days there. You can see across the south coast holding around 14, 15, 16 degrees overnight at 3 a.m. So that is going to springboard us potentially to 20 degrees plus through Wednesday afternoon. So yeah, looking really quite warm perhaps next week. So if you are looking for some warmer, drier weather, potentially mid next week for a day or two could be quite pleasant. But of course, it does look warm, but it could be accompanied by heavy showers and storms. But we can't really pinpoint that yet. It's still 5+ days away. If you do now go over to the GFS and see what that is showing over the next couple of weeks, you can see the lower pressure pushing in at the moment, the jet stream tracking slightly further southwards, and you can see through Sunday and Monday we actually start to track a southerly wind and more high pressure dominated. It is that really well into Tuesday and Wednesday. Southerly wind right in from the near continent and down from the Mediterranean, bringing up a very warm air mass before eventually Thursday, Friday next week the lower pressure does move in, so that could turn it heavy precipitation and thundery perhaps, with that warmer air mass colliding with lower pressure, and eventually beyond that and towards day 10 we do see it going more from a west to northwesterly direction. No, not as much of a northerly flow today, but perhaps right at the extended range a bit of a northerly wind there, but we still got this mid-Atlantic ridge which it does hold will bring more northerly flows in, so it could turn colder in the longer term. If we do run back and have a look at what is showing today for the upper air temperatures, you can see perhaps into Monday, you can see around the 5 degree isotherm in, maybe nudging on the 10 degree, but it's really into Wednesday there. You can see the 15 degree isotherm flirts with us, and into Thursday as well before getting swept away, and that's going more into more genuine sort of autumnal air masses beyond that before potentially turning colder in the longer term. We can see this even better by having a look at the temperature deviation. You'll be able to see it is incredibly warm. You look at that 10 to 12 degrees above average in terms of temperature deviation there. So yeah, very, very warm. 20 degree plus is very possible. And if we do actually have a look at the 2 meter temperatures, go into the United Kingdom look, 3 hour intervals, you can see there Wednesday at 3 p.m, 20, 21 degrees, locally 22, 23. And if we move into Thursday as well, you can see again, high teens, maybe not quite as warm. And have a look at Tuesday, see all that peak temperature there, maybe 19 or 20. So UKV not quite pushing that warm air in on Tuesday, but the GFS definitely is. But regardless of what model you look at, there is a day or two at least there of some real warmth potentially from that Tuesday to Thursday period. So yeah, 20 degree plus is looking really quite possible next week. Now, if you go over to the GEM, see what that is showing over the next 10 days. Again, a westerly flow at the moment. Eventually, see that southerly wind push in. It's much more high pressure dominated next week, so it could mean it's a lot drier, and that warmth spreads further northwards as well, for eventually going more unsettled with the wind coming in from a northwesterly direction. Again, if we do run it back and have a look at the raw upper air temperatures, you can see by Wednesday next week, look, the 10 degree isotherm is firmly in, 15 degree isotherm flirting with our south. That is incredibly warm air mass. Even in the summer, that would be very warm in terms of upper air temperatures, let alone middle of October, and beyond that towards day 10, eventually more of a westerly to northwesterly flow, turning things a little bit cooler there, but still nothing too exceptional. Again, looking at the temperature deviation for this next week, initially cool on Monday and Tuesday, but before Wednesday, look at that, very warm. Potentially again 10 to maybe 12 degrees above average this time of year, pushing through there before eventually getting swept away later in the week. And again, if we have a look at the 2 meter temperatures for the United Kingdom, look at the 3 hour intervals. You can see next Tuesday afternoon, you can see if we do run it through, we can see the temperatures rising to mid to high teens. If we do run to Wednesday afternoon, perhaps again mid to high teens, not quite as warm. Very interesting seeing that today. GM definitely not as warm as the GFS is showing. Maybe it's just underdoing it a bit, and you can see 17, 18 degrees there. We have seen that consistently from the GEM in the summer, where it would underdo the temperatures a little bit. So perhaps it is underdo the temperatures a little bit here, but still showing high teens, touching potentially locally on 20 degrees, regardless if it's got a slightly cooler bias, because the upper air temperatures definitely do suggest temperatures in excess of 20 degrees. Perhaps it's forecasting a bit more cloud and maybe some showers, but again, these things can change, and locally I'd still expect somewhere to see 20 degrees with this sort of air mass pushing in. If you go over to the ECMWF, see how that does compare. If we actually just start on the upper air temperatures, you can see low pressure plunging in at the moment, but eventually we bring up a very warm southerly wind. The 10 to 15 degree isotherm pushes in, does degrade as it moves in. Again, it depends how long that warm air mass does survive, but a south to southeasterly flow, for eventually low pressure does push back in and turn things a lot more unsettled. That would be broken down with quite a lot of heavy rain. If you look at the temperature deviation, you can see not quite as above average, but still 6 to 8 degrees, maybe locally 10 degrees above average. And again, if we have a look at the 2 meter temperatures locally, and we go zoom in, you can see for Tuesday afternoon, you see those temperatures rising potentially around sort of 16, 17, maybe 18 degrees. Into Wednesday afternoon, you see the temperatures again mid to high teens, not quite as warm as the other ones are suggesting. So again, perhaps more showers here, and into Thursday afternoon, again skipping a little bit the 3 p.m. interval, but 18 degrees there at midday, so you would suspect somewhere would reach 19 or 20 degrees. So it does look like on all three runs, even though the GM and the ECMWF are being a little bit more pessimistic, definitely does look like high teens is pretty much guaranteed here, which is becoming increasingly more difficult to reach, and potentially 20 degrees is looking very likely as well, at least in a few locations, and maybe even slightly higher if we do see a bit more sunshine mixing in and potentially that 15 degree isotherm move in. Now, if you finish by having a look at the ensembles, you can see why there still is a bit of uncertainty, because next week you can see the big warm push of air, but you can see some ensemble members are only getting it to around 8, 9, 10 degrees at 850 HPA, others getting it in excess of 15 degrees. The ones getting it above 15 degrees are going to be into the low 20s, the one around 8, 9, 10 degrees are going to be sort of high teens. So there is still a bit of spread on the extent of the warmth, but you can see it is well above average, at least 5 degrees, if not closer to 10 to maybe even sort of 12 degrees above average. Beyond that, it does slowly trend downwards, but with precipitation moving in, it's not going to feel as warm, so temperatures will probably return to mid to maybe low teens, even though we have still warm upper air temperatures. And of course, you can see there is still a lot of precipitation next week, so we're only going to see that 20 plus degrees where we do avoid the showers. So it's not a widespread warmth. It's very warm upper air temperatures. It will feel humid and sticky out there, but the sort of sunny or potentially even summer-like conditions that you may feel out there, or at least late summer-like conditions, will only be in areas where we avoid the showers and thicker cloud. Beyond that, it does return more towards average, but we remain with a high precipitation signal, and you can see the real big spread in the longer term. Some staying around or above average, others plunging much below average down to the -5 line, which could produce some winteriness potentially in the north. So still a lot of uncertainty in the longer term. And again, if we put on the 2 meter temperatures, you can see next week, you can see quite a few of the ensemble members are at least into the high teens. The average of the ensemble members are into the high teens next week, and you can see peaking potentially on Tuesday, quite likely on Wednesday, maybe again on Thursday, getting towards that 20 degree range. And of course, the ensemble members always do underdo it slightly, so likely if we did see one of these 20 degree ensemble members, it would probably be 21, 22, maybe 23. So 20 to 25 degrees is possible. Definitely more lean towards the 20 degree being likely, 25 degree and an absolute stretch, but I think most likely we'll see is 20, maybe 21 locally. If you look at the ECMWF ensemble members and do compare that, you can have a look at the midnight run. Again, big peak next week. Most of the ensemble members getting to around 10 degrees, plus some getting towards 15 degrees. The 15 degree ones, of course, will give the temperatures into the 20s. Beyond that, we do return more towards average, but not as many colder runs. Very interesting seeing that. So perhaps a trend more towards some average conditions, but still very high precipitation regardless. So whatever the air mass we do see over the next few weeks, it looks like the precipitation will be plentiful, setting up quite an unsettled and wet end to October, regardless of what the surface temperatures are like. And again, if we look at the 2 meter temperatures, you can see next week peaking perhaps around that mid to high teens, and you can see some getting above 20 degrees there. Again, still quite a bit of uncertainty with that, because again, it all depends on the shower activity. If we see more shower activity, those temperatures won't rise much above the 850 HPA temperatures, so maybe stuck in the mid-teens. But if we do see some sunshine, we could see 20 degrees plus next week. So it does look highly possible. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you do enjoy some warmth next week. Again, I must emphasise it will be dependent on precipitation, but we can't pinpoint that until it comes within the 5-day time frame. So we'll be keeping an eye on that over the next few days, so make sure you do stay tuned for the videos, as we could see some warm weather, some Indian summer type pattern potentially next week. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.